when the National Assembly passed the anti-doping, legislative proposal into a bill that was sometime in June of last year, it was quite an excitement, given the promise that it held. But by the time President Bola Tinubu signed it into law just this month of April, it became a dream come true for not just Nigeria as a country, generally speaking, but for, again, the sporting industry, for a country that has long yearned for clean sports, as it's popularly referred to. It was just that yearning that actually came to be. For many Nigerians who may not understand this, what it now says to us is that with the help of this bill, which has now been passed into law, signed into law by the president, it means that the sporting industry will be better governized, especially as it has to do with doping and countermeasures being taken against that factor, which has badly affected Nigeria's image on the global stage for several decades. But beyond sports, this bill also holds a lot of promise for the fight against illicit drug use in the country, which of course we understand that the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has been fighting tooth and nail to win the war against, but it's just not whoo yet, even with all the efforts that are being made as it stands right now. So these are some of the concerns that we're having, and want to have this conversation this morning with somebody who is an expert in this particular field. I'm joined by Dr. Adeline Shuri Clinton Agbor. She's a certified counselor and trauma expert. Sam will fail us to go into her profile this morning, given how widespread her tentacles are, professionally speaking. Dr. Clinton Agbor, I'd like to say a big thank you to you for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you very much.
I know a lot of persons will be wondering what your business is with sports exactly, but quickly, let's talk about this bill in particular. I've spoken with experts, especially in the sporting space, who say that this is a landmark achievement for not just the sporting industry, but for our nation as a whole. Talk to us about the importance of this bill.
If I must say, I really got excited when I heard this. The nation generally has been going through just so much recently, and that has really affected the mental health of people. And talking about sports here, it's mostly the youths that go into sports, if you say that. And you can tell that our youths are really very much into drug usage, and that has really affected the sports industry. So I was really excited hearing that. I really commend the president for that, because it's going to help our youth to be able to do clean sports. And that brings Nigeria to a point of integrity, which is what everybody is looking up to. So that really is one of the things that is going to completely transform the sporting industry. And I know at a point there's been a limelight looking out to Nigerians, watching to see what becomes of the youths of the nations who are into sports, who are going into all this doping and all that. So this bill is really going to help us have that clean sports integrity out there.
People have said, look, Nigeria has never been lacking in terms of laws, whether the ground norm, the constitution, or extant laws like this bill, for example. The argument is that the challenge always 100% lies in enforcement. Do you see any obstacle in that regard?
Well, I really don't see that. I believe that for this law to have been passed means Nigeria has a goal to achieve. Yes, Nigeria has a goal to achieve. Nigeria is coming to that place where they want the world to know that indeed we are a people of integrity. So I believe that with the help of all the professionals we have around, we should be able to enforce this. Yes, bringing in professionals who should be able to help the youths come out from this. It's not. I don't think it's going to be a very major challenge. I'm very, very certain that it's going to be enforced. Yeah.
Let's talk about the wider population now, because I think beyond sports, this is where the real issue lies. You mentioned at the top of this conversation, young people, right, whose lives have been negatively affected by use of drugs, illicit drugs, that is. Of course, we have seen operatives of the Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, go all out to ensure that we continue to drive these fights, especially under the leadership of Brigadier General Buba Marwa, retired. But it will appear those efforts need to be not just consolidated alone, but they also need to be complemented, right? Mm-hmm. What can we do? What can we do to, beyond taking people off the streets, those who have been attached, who have been addicted to drugs, beyond trying to get drugs off the street, beyond trying to deplete the drug markets, as it were, what can we do about the culture that causes people, the factors that drive people to be addicted to illicit use of drugs?
I think the first point here is, as people, we need to come off the stigmatization that goes on. Most, if you look very well, you realize that for most of them who go into drugs, they are traumatized by something.
Right.
Yes, trauma has been the main cause of that. Most of them are really traumatized by something, so we should be.
So it's not village people.
No, that's where we have a problem. People feel stigmatized, even being able to say, I feel depressed.
Right.
Yes, because depression brings them to that point. A lot of them get to that place, just like we said, with the state of the country right now. Financially, a lot of people are going through just so much. You've got fathers finding it difficult to meet up with their responsibilities, sending their children to school and stuff like that. You've got mothers unable to even make sales in their businesses because truly there's no money out there as such. See. And so that is affecting people and bringing them to a place where they feel it's a way of escape. And so they are getting into that. And I want to think what we could do right here is we've got professionals out there, we've got spiritual authorities out there. And most of these people actually belong to one religion or the other. So I feel it is now the place of these people in authority to be able to bring them close, develop a sense of empathy. In fact, I spoke with someone a few days ago, and I said, if we all could just come to a place of being empathetic towards each other.
So empathy is key.
Very, very key. It's going to help a lot of us come out from so many forms of addictions. There are those who are actually not into the drugs, but are into other forms of addictions, which are really destroying the society. So I want to think if we can come to that place where we get to understand these people are dealing with something, they're actually sick, mental health challenges they go through cause them to get into that place. If someone is actually traumatized by something, you don't expect him to relate normally.
Right.
Yeah, if someone is depressed and sick in there, you can't expect such a person to be in the right frame of mind to perform well. So we come to that place wherein, even in our organizations where we do work, we have bosses who are there who should be sensitive enough, maybe those in the human resource department who relate directly with their colleagues, should be able to identify, notice when one is depressed, when one is feeling withdrawn, just get to understand that, and out of the empathetic nature within you, you find a way on how to help. That will help these people come out from those things. So
it's interesting, quite a bogus conversation to have, I must admit. You mentioned the workplace now, for example, and then we have a culture that's very prevalent around here. People can easily relate with regular sicknesses or ailments. You tell somebody you have fever, whether it's typhoid or malaria, 2+, 10+, whatever plus it is, people can relate with those. Excuse me. Somebody is recovering from, let's say, surgical procedure, for example. People can relate with all those. But people can almost not relate in this part of the world, in our climate here, with things like depression, things like mental health challenge. We've seen people in the so-called civilized environments who would pull out of an international competition because they say, well, my mental health is not in a good place right now, I'm going back home. And over here, that sounds weird because it's not the culture we're used to. In fact, for us, it's a culture shock. How do we begin to do some sort of reverse engineering on that culture that we have in this part of the world?
I think part of what we could do is what we're doing right now. Trying to yes, get people to that point of understanding, just like I said, that mental health challenges is not a stigma. You know, people shouldn't get to that point where, because that's actually what is happening right now. You find it difficult to express yourself in that phase, just like you said, because cultural-wise, it's an abomination.
Right.
So we have to get to that place where we are able to let the world know, let our people know that it's not actually a stigma. You're not going through some kind of challenge, like we say, they spiritualized everything. Yeah, we don't get to that place. So I think it's also, like I said, we through our leaders, we've got people in authority in every sphere of life.
Right.
So I think what we should be thinking of doing is how to get these people aware, just create a sense of awareness, whatever way we can. Yeah, so these people get to know that they have to look out for each other. Yes, because that's what brings us to that place.
Looking out for each other becomes a challenge in light of the realities we're now dealing with as a people. I mean, I am relatively young. I remember when I was a little boy, say elementary school age, for example, it was normal for your mom to take you by hand to a neighbor several houses away, sometimes a street away, to say, keep an eye on my son or my daughter while I'm away. And your mom didn't have to be afraid of anything and all that. So we're really communal at that time in those days. That element, that thread, has either broken altogether or is just on the brink now, right? Is there still a chance that we can go back to those good old days?
Yeah, you know, when you said earlier, you spoke earlier about the aspect of us living out here and seeing mental health as a problem.
Right.
I was also reflecting on that because we are Africans, and the African nature has to do with the communal life.
Right.
Now, we have found ourselves in this place, but I don't think it stops us from being able to communicate. We've found this place where at least there's the usage of phones today. So if you think you're too busy, you can drop a message. You can call. We've got family WhatsApp groups.
Right.
You can drop a message, check on each other, check up on each other. What's going on? How are you feeling today? And mean it. Yes, be sure. Sometimes you could just try to find out, let the person talk so you hear, because sometimes just writing, the person may not be able to, you may not be able to really get it, but hearing the voice of that individual could tell if the person is really in a good place or not.
Right.
Yeah, so I want to think those are other options. And I believe if families could start developing that culture, find a time to come together. In actual fact, if you look at it, you realize that Africa already had that space of helping out with this.
Long before.
Yes, we already had that in place, because the communal life is one of the aspects that you need as an individual to come out from any mental challenge, health challenge you're facing. Yes, when you're able to go out and socialize, relate with your peers, somehow you get to talk, and that helps to heal.
Right.
You understand? So that was already in existence, like you said. You could go to your neighbor, sit there freely, eat without any problem. So by the time you're able to also come out there and relate, that is part of the healing. So it's like still taking us back to it, but in a different way. So we can always find a way to go about it. It's part of your healing. It's definitely a therapy if you have to come out from a form of depression. It's advisable you try to relate, socialize. Yes, it's part of the
You see, we live in a day and age, Doc, where you find that the use of drugs has radically evolved for all the wrong reasons. Today you see pastries, you see confectionery, what have you, all of them, even vegetable products, all of them being laced with all kinds of drugs. We've seen them intercepted by the police, by NSCDC, by customs, by NGLE, all of these agencies of government. Have we gone too far for redemption at this point?
Well, I really would say no. Yes. Why? Because, like I said, we have leaders out there.
Right.
You are a leader. I'm sure you have 2 or 3 people under you. Yes, everyone is a leader in one way or the other.
Right.
You're leading 2 people somewhere, you're leading 3 people somewhere. And if you're able to create that awareness, definitely we're going to go through with it. I think we just need to come from that place of creating an awareness. Yes, talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. And people will get to understand. A lot of these people don't even know the repercussion of using these drugs.
Right.
So many of them.
Like you said, it's an escape route for them.
Yes, they use it as an escape route. So a lot of them don't know the repercussions. So many are not even aware they take these things and that they go in there to destroy their organs. So many of them are not. And because they've gotten into it and they are now addicted, it's become a problem to even come out. And that is where professional help comes in. Like I always say, seek help. There are many ways of being helped. Someone told me, we really don't have the money to seek professional help. And I said, you do have people around you who can help. You've got your pastor, you've got other leaders around you. Yes, the people who are really concerned, who will help you without taking a dime from you. So all you need to do is desire to be helped. And definitely help will come.
You look at the way people live overseas, for example. Somebody can wake up, sometimes even a superstar, megastar, whether in soccer, in music, or in movies, and just check into rehab voluntarily. No force. You don't need soldiers or some heavily muscled men to come carry. You just check into rehab, and you even go to the internet to tell your fans that you checked into rehab earlier today because you feel your mental health needs to being revitalized or something, right? We don't have that culture here, for example, which is also a challenge. How do we now reverse the tide where it is not normal to even seek help? I'll give you an example. When I was growing up as a small boy, people who committed suicide were full-blown adults. Some of them grandparents, some of them parents, men and women, of course, with children. But these days you hear undergraduates committing or contemplating or attempting suicide just because they failed a course in their second year, first semester, just because they are not impressed with their CGPA. These are not economic problems, are they?
Well, like I said, most of them are traumatized by something. Trauma to you may not be trauma to me.
To someone else.
Yes, and your reaction to trauma may not be the same as that of another. People react differently to trauma. So sometimes you find those people who are, we call them, when they get to that point where they're so depressed and they've gotten to the point of becoming borderline personalities.
Right.
They have borderline personality disorders. They are destabilized. So most of them, in one way or the other, have lingered in depression for a very, very long time. Yes.
The longer it goes, the worse it gets.
Yes. So what happens is, like they say, the last straw that hit the camel's back, that broke the camel's back. So that's what happens. They've lingered in it for a very long time, and then, okay, I just failed again. So it's been a long time, maybe trauma from childhood. I've always noticed I fail all the time, and my mom has always said I'm a failure. My dad has always called me a failure. Or friends have always called me a failure, and it's been this way all the time. Oh, I thought I could just make it this time around, but it just didn't work out. And because I've been depressed with many other things, what happens at the end? This turns out to be the last straw.
And you withdraw.
So that's where we come in. You're a lecturer, you're a teacher. You should be able to identify children in your class, even as small as they are. We are being taught psychology in school, especially for teachers.
Right.
Yes, it's a course every teacher must go through. Why is that done? It's so we can be able to use it to help the children mentally. Yes, it's a holistic training that is given to every teacher. The challenge we have out here is that we don't tend to practice that particular aspect. Yes, so if at that level where the teachers can be able to use the psychology knowledge they've had when being trained, then you realize they'll be able to identify. I'm using just that example. They'll be able to identify those children. And just like I said, if we come to the place of your organization where you work, for example, you're able to also identify those people who are dealing with stuff like that. You can be able to help. And what we usually say is, if you're healed, then you should be thinking of healing another.
Right.
So if you get someone come to you, help counsel you, help take you through the process, and you'll come out of it, then you should be looking out for others who are like you. So if you found someone who is suffering from borderline personality disorder, for example, and you help them, then you should be able to help them help others. So that's exactly what I feel we can be able to do to help our society.
We're going to take a break shortly, but let's look at the systemic angle to this conversation right now. Right? I have friends who studied psychology. I have friends from, social psychology, social works, and what have you, and all of that, counseling psychology, and so on. But our system here doesn't seem to place a premium on this field of practice. It's almost not possible for you to see, or I should say, it's not common to find trained career psychologists who are in private practice. It's not very common. Abroad, you hear people saying they are paying $150 an hour, especially in places like US, for example, an hour just to see a shrink, as they call it, right? And things like that. Now, we're not talking about the cost implication as an element. We're talking about the culture of it. Yes, there are people you can always talk to, whether in your family, amongst your cycle of friends, those you can trust, even at the workplace. That one person you can confide in, that one person you have built trust with over time, your spiritual guide, your life coach, or what have you. How do we also ensure that for those who are in the field of psychology as a career, as a practice, for example, they are better encouraged? Because I hear people in this field say things like, we're not valued here, that's why we want to move abroad. And when they move abroad, they see how much of value is placed on them. But again, that's unfortunately depletes the manpower back at home.
Yeah, like to me, I believe, like I told you, I got excited about this bill being signed, the anti-doping bill.
Will this bill address issues like this?
Yes, I believe it's going to do that, because even the anti-doping agency worldwide is bringing in counselors, psychologists
from across the world.
Yes, that's what they're doing out there right now. So I also believe our government has that in mind. Because for them to have signed this bill tells you they have the plans of making use of the counselors around them. Yes, because it's definitely not going to be easy, like you have asked before, to be able to help these athletes do their job perfectly without having the right counsel. So, of course, I believe the government is thinking about that, to start bringing in counselors to do their profession rightly, which for sure would spread across. Because even if we start with just the sports aspect, it will spread. Take, for example, they're able to help out an athlete. That athlete will take it back to a friend.
Right.
Yes, who may not be an athlete, but then you see it's going to start spreading. I believe the government will definitely come up with something like that, because it's something really very important. Yes, we really need it. And talking of our culture, we have many different cultural aspects we can use to bring ourselves to that place. Yes. We've had festivals. We have so many festivals going on in Nigeria. We can use those places to be able to reach out to the people. We've got culture, like I know of the one that holds in Cross River every time. every December, people gather.
Right, the Calabar Festival.
The Calabar Festival.
Right.
We've got the Yam festivals that do hold, and people to gather in places like that. So I think, just like I said, the leaders, take for example the chief or whoever is the leader in that area, could just take out a few minutes to let someone talk to the people. Yes, I believe that will help. That will help.
All right.
Spread the news across.
All right, great. We're taking a quick break now, everyone. When we return, so much to unpack regarding this conversation. There's the issue of trauma and the call for those who aspire to hold political offices to be tested for drugs. Well, we'll talk about all that on the flip side of this break. Stay with us.